All right, so today we're going to do Unit 10, Day 2, and we're going to be talking about multiplying and dividing rational expressions. So there's a couple types of questions that they'll ask you. They might just ask you simply to multiply or divide. Otherwise, they're going to say, state any undefined values. They might also refer to that as what is your domain or any restrictions. But typically they'll ask you about undefined values. So when you see that, you're going to set the denominator equal to 0 and then solve. Right? You may need to factor, so I'm going to say factor if necessary. Kind of depends on what the problem looks like. All right, that's one type of problem. The other ones are going to be just simply multiply or divide. All right, so there's 3 steps. The first one is if it's division, you're going to flip the second fraction to make it multiplication. Another term for that is called multiplying by the reciprocal. Okay, so you only do that if it's division. Otherwise, then we're going to decide if we have binomials or trinomials. Then we're going to factor as much as possible. Then we're going to cancel common factors. All right, step 3. If you don't have any binomials or trinomials, so if they're just monomials, then you're going to multiply and then simplify. All right, number 1, so this is just asking you to simplify and then identify any x values for which the expression is undefined. So we're going to first look at our undefined part. We're looking at our denominator. So we're saying 6x to the 4th. We're going to set it equal to 0, and then we're going to solve. So if I divide by 6, I get x to the 4th equals 0. And to undo a 4th power, I take the 4th root. So the 4th root of 0 is just 0. So this tells me that I cannot have, so you're just going to change this to a not equals, x cannot equal 0. Another way to say that is all real numbers except 0. But I think for now we're just going to go with the not equal sign. All right, then the other thing is to simplify. So we're just going to reduce 10 divided by 6. You could divide them both by 2, so it's 5 divided by 3. And then don't forget you could subtract your exponents, so there's more in the numerator. So it's 5x to the 4th over 3. All right, problem number 2, we're going to simplify and identify anything where it's undefined. Okay, so I'm going to look at my denominator. X squared plus 2x minus 3 equals 0. In this case, we do need to factor. So I want to know what are 2 numbers that multiply to negative 3 that add to positive 2. So I'm going to say plus 3 and minus 1. And then remember that you take the opposite. So x cannot equal negative 3 and x cannot equal 1. Okay, so that's my undefined part. For the simplifying part, you're going to factor the numerator and the denominator. Right, we already did the denominator, x plus 3, x minus 1. So in my numerator, what multiplies to negative 2 and adds to positive 1 is positive 2 and negative 1. And then you're going to look for common factors. So if I look for common factors, see how x minus 1 is on the top and bottom? That's gone. So my simplifying part is x plus 2 over x plus 3. That's the simplify. if we list anything that's undefined, it would be values at x equals -3 and x equals 1. All right, last one. So look at my denominator. It's x minus 5, x plus 2, because two things that multiply to -10 that add to -3 are -5 and 2. So I take the opposite, so x cannot equal 5, x cannot equal -2. So those are my undefined values. And then for the simplifying part, I've already factored the denominator, so I'm just going to go back and factor the numerator. The only thing I can do is take out a -1, and I get x minus 5. So notice that x minus 5 and x minus 5 are exactly the same, so your simplified part is -1 over x plus 2. So you're kind of going to do the same concept for the other parts of the problem, or the other parts of this worksheet, except you have to multiply or divide. So like I said, if you look for division, these are not division, so we can skip step 1. So we're going to look for if we have binomials and trinomials or if we have monomials. Here there's no plus signs, so that tells me these are monomials. So I'm just going to multiply. 3 times 10 is 30. 2 times 9 is 18. When you combine your x's, I've got x to the 8th and y to the 7th. When I combine my x's, I've got x to the 5th and y to the 12th. And then you're just going to reduce. So I could divide those by 6. That'll give me 5 over 3. I'm going to subtract. I've got more x's in the numerator. Here I'm going to subtract, but I've got more y's in the denominator. So you get 5x to the 3rd over 3y to the 5th. Sorry. All right, number 5. This is multiply. So I'm going to look for all of my things that could be factored. X minus 3 doesn't factor. But this one, I could divide out of 4, so I get x plus 5. For this one, it's a difference of perfect squares. So if you remember this one, it's x plus 3 and x minus 3. In the top right, we got x plus 5. That didn't change. So notice that we're not changing the location. X minus 3 stays where it is. This one just went down here. This one just went down here. All right, so now we're just going to look for common factors. Anything on the top can cancel out with anything on the bottom. So look at this as one big division sign. X plus 5 is the same on the top and the bottom. X minus 3 is the same on the top and the bottom. So then just rewrite whatever's left over. We've got our big division bar. 4 is left over. X plus 3 is left over. But you need something on top. You can't leave it blank, so you have to put a 1 there. Then you're all done. All right, flip back to the other side. Okay, so problem number 6. This time we do have division. So if we look back at our rules, if it's division, we're going to flip the second fraction. So you're going to take this and you're going to flip it. So keep the first one as is. We're going to change it to multiply by the reciprocal. Then you're going to look for anything at all that can be factored. So I could take out a GCF and 2x minus 6 to be 2 times the quantity x minus 3. Then I've got a difference of squares. X plus 5, x minus 5, because that's a perfect square. This one's a perfect square also. Square root of 9 is 3, so it's x plus 3, x minus 3. Then this one I need to look for two numbers that multiply to 5 that add to 6. So 5 times 1 is 5, 5 plus 1 is 6. All right, so remember, once you've got it all factored, you look at it as one big division and you cancel any common factors. All right, so you cancel common factors. So look for anything that's the same. X minus 3, x plus 5, but that's it. Okay, so now just leave everything where it is. 2 times x plus 1, x minus 5, x plus 3. Then we're all done. All right, number 7. Notice that it's division, so keep the first fraction as it is. Don't change it at all. Change it to multiply by the reciprocal. All right, so now after you do step 1, you go to step 2. Can anything be factored? Well, that's a difference of perfect squares, and we just did that in the last problem. Right? So x plus 5, x minus 5. Here I need two things that multiply to negative 10 that add to negative 3. So they multiply to negative 10, they add to negative 3. over here, if you have a negative, you could factor out a -1, and it's -1 times x plus 2. And then x plus 5 doesn't change. Okay, so now again, look at it as one big division bar. And anything that's the same on the top and the bottom can cancel. So we got x plus 5, x minus 5, x plus 2. All those cancel, so the only thing that's left is -1. That's your final answer. All right, last two problems. Multiplication. So we do not flip anything. We're just going to try to factor. Look for a GCF in here. So you could divide by 2. We got 2 times x minus 1. There's no GCF here, so keep that the same. This one is a trinomial, so you look for what multiplies to 2. That adds to -3. So we've got -2 and -1. Those multiply to +2, but they add to -3. Here, you could take out an x. So we're going to do x times x plus 4. Notice that there was an x in both. That's how I knew to take out a GCF. All right, so when you're done with factoring, you look for one big division bar, and anything on the top cancels out with anything on the bottom. X minus 1, it has to be exactly the same. X plus 4 is exactly the same. Now this has a 2, but that's not x minus 2. That's just a 2, so those don't cancel out. So you have a 2, an x, and an x minus 2. Then that's it. Even though there's x's and 2's, they don't look exactly the same, so you have to leave it as is. Right? This is a binomial, this is a monomial, so those don't cancel each other out. Last problem. Change to multiply by the reciprocal. So make sure that you flip everything in the second fraction first. Don't change anything in the first fraction. Okay, then you're going to factor as much as you can. So this is what multiplies to -3. That adds to +2. So I want my +3 and -1. This is a difference of perfect squares. So one time it's +3, one time it's -3. This one, what multiplies to -3, that adds to +2 or -2. So I need a -3 and a +1. And then here I look at my -4, so I need to multiply to -4, but I need to add to +3. Okay, so when you're done with that, look at it as one big division problem. Anything on the top and bottom that's exactly the same cancels out. So x plus 3's, x minus 3's, x minus 1's. The only thing that's left over is x plus 1 over x plus 4. And then you're all finished. Okay, so make sure that you copy whatever is left over in exactly the same locations. That was on the top, that was on the bottom. So keep them where they're at.